everyone! Welcome to Use the Wings engine. This tutorial mainly introduces how to set the interaction between the big screen and components. Interaction is to trigger a large screen or component. Trigger a set of actions on the big screen or component. Interactions need to be set at the source of the trigger. It can be set on the sub-large screen or on a certain component. Let's open a sample project. First, let's introduce the interaction of components. Click to select the character component. Click Add Interaction button in the Interaction settings. You can add a new interaction. After clicking, the Interaction Settings window will open. The settings of interaction are divided into two parts, which are events and actions. Events need to set trigger conditions. For example, here click means mouse click or touch screen click. When the mouse enters and leaves, which is our conventional mouse sliding operation. A common example is the mouse moves up and highlights and disappears when the mouse moves away. Entry refers to when this component from hidden to visible. Exit refers to when this component from display to hidden. Receive events in secondary development. It is mainly used for interaction control in secondary development. We will introduce in the secondary development. We will introduce it in detail in the tutorial. No matter which component, the triggering conditions for interactions are all these unified options. Next, let's look at the settings of actions. First, we need to set the type of action. Depending on the type, other settings will change accordingly. Let's switch to this button component. We can see that two interactions have been added. Interactions that switch states by clicking. After clicking on an interaction settings item, we can see the detailed settings of this interaction. This state switching is what we introduced earlier. Multi-state switching of large screens or components. After selecting this settings item, we need to set the target component. This target component can be a sub-large screen or component. After selecting the target component, next, we need to select the state to switch to. The last one is the execution order. When multiple interactions are set for the same triggering event, you can set the execution order between them. If there is no order requirement, set it to happen simultaneously with the previous action. If it is sequential execution, select after the previous action. Let's demonstrate the interaction effect. You can see that after clicking Stop, the graph stops rotating. After clicking Run, it starts to rotate again. The second action option is to modify settings. First, we still need to select the target component, which supports multi-selection. You can also search by entering keywords. The settings that can be modified, including style, data, and code. That is, all settings in the Settings window except all settings other than the interaction itself can be modified through interaction. When selecting a settings item, you can set it on a large category or a specific setting. Because here, by controlling the playback and animations to reflect the machine status. So the settings that can be modified here are the play animation switches in the display settings. The modification of the settings item is based on the first selected target component as the basis. If the selected target component has different types, the settings may be different. The interaction here may not work for some components. And the modification of settings only affects the current state of the component. If you want to use it with multiple states, you can switch the state first and then modify the settings. The third action option is Sub-Large Screen Jump. This option is a commonly used option, which is equivalent to switching to a sub-large screen page. Here we only need to select a sub-large screen to switch to. In addition to clicks, we can also use mice to move in, and other ways to trigger interactions. For example, the interaction set here is triggered by mouse movement to trigger the interaction event. The fourth action option is to open a link, which is mainly used to open third-party web pages. The opening method can be selected in a new tab or in the current page. This setting is for the software. Doesn't work for playing large screens. It mainly affects the performance in the browser when opening the large screen. Let's open the project in the web page. We can see that here is to open the link. Link in a new tab. If you choose to open it in the current page, the current large screen page will refresh to the new linked web page. The fifth action option is to control pop-ups. First, we need to select a pop-up component. Then select the operation to open or close the pop-up window. Finally, set the action sequence. After setting, we click to trigger the interaction to demonstrate. Here, in the pop-up component, we added an iframe component to achieve the effect of opening a link. To open a link, the sixth action option is to pass an event. We will explain it in the secondary development tutorial. The seventh action option is to refresh data. This interaction effect is the same as clicking. Refresh data in the data menu. The eighth action option is full screen playback control. It's equivalent to clicking the full screen play button and the ESC key on the keyboard. It can control the large screen in full screen play or exit full screen playback. The ninth action option is to modify project parameters. Mainly for the case of setting project parameters. You can modify the parameter values through interaction. Trigger events and execute scripts in secondary development. It is mainly used in the scenario of secondary development. We will explain it to you in the secondary development tutorial. Explain the 12th action option, which is empty action, which does not produce any interaction effects. It can be used in scenarios such as dynamic value transfer. The last action option is customize. Customization is generally for components with special interactions, such as this carousel component. Its custom interaction has an effect to control the effect of the carousel switch. The custom interaction settings of different components will be different. The setting method is the same as the previous one. Let's demonstrate the interaction effect. You can see that the carousel will switch images. The button to switch the images. After introducing the interaction settings of components, let's introduce the interaction settings of the large screen. Click the blank area of the page. Switch to the interaction settings in the right settings window. Just like the interaction settings of components. Click Add Interaction button. You can add a new interaction. This interaction settings window also includes events and actions. The difference is that some components trigger events are not applicable in the large screen. In addition, there are two different trigger events. One is when the data condition is met, and the other is full screen playback, or switch to the current dashboard. The data condition is the same as. Condition styles and condition states have the same logic. It means that when a certain data condition is met, this interaction is triggered. Full screen playback means the current, switching to full screen state. Page switching refers to switching between multiple pages. Switching to the current page triggers the interaction. The action settings below, and the components are exactly the same. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you next time.